problem with adolescence. True. Kids suck, I meant. Or we don't approve of children.
The conversation about Adolescence, the viral Netflix series about a 13-year-old boy who stabs to death a schoolmate who bullied him on social media, is slowly moving on. I've been meaning to write about it for weeks, but I've struggled to.
Okay.
For me, the series was hard to watch because my life was shaken very deeply by an episode of violence when I was a young teenager. One otherwise normal day in my early teens, I returned from lessons to my boarding house dorm to find my best friend bleeding from a large stab wound on the right side of his neck.
Jesus.
Every time he tried to breathe, the wound would make a horrible gasping sound. Horrified, I rushed to find an adult. By the time we'd returned, my friend was gone. After a brief investigation, our geography teacher was arrested and confessed. He'd been abusing my friend and was forced to kill him when threatened with exposure.
Jesus.
The reason I'm telling you this is that it's not true. But human brains only work in one direction. No matter how many times I tell you that this story is false, you can't change the fact that you saw the horrific images I conjured in your mind.
Okay.
And when you saw them,
Epic.
You felt something. The fact that I immediately recanted the story changes something, but not everything. Negation works in language. It doesn't work in brains. You can't unsee the huge pink elephant I just put in your head. The harder you try, the more you fail. If you feel it was irresponsible of me to lie to you about such a traumatic incident, you're not wrong.
Shias glorify Ali, Muhammad's cousin, the fourth caliph, and reject the other companions. Sunnis accept all companions. Both groups describe the other groups as blasphemous and misguided. Okay.
It was. The only reason I did is to illustrate the point. The media, the arts, and entertainment do this to you all the time. I recall a conversation between my mother and my grandmother in the 1990s. Soap operas were making inroads into the post-Soviet TV market for the first time, and millions of people, like my grandmother, would be glued to the television watching terrible Brazilian actors marry, cheat, and divorce each other with impressive regularity. My grandmother watched every betrayal, near-death experience, and predictable revelation with the emotional investment of someone.
Okay, I got a question, all right? Was I the only person who had a mom that did this, where they would watch soap operas religiously, but they would always turn the channel during the sex scenes because they were like immoral? Or was that just my parent? Did anybody else have family members that did this? Am I crazy?
Watching their only child take their first steps. She howled with rage, gasped in shock, and exhaled with relief in all the right places on the emotional roller coaster. My mother seemed irritated by this and would playfully remind my grandmother that she was watching something that was fiction. My grandmother's...
Do they even have sex scenes? They'd like lay and moan together or whatever. I grew up in like a... I think this was a common American experience, or at least Europeans make fun of Americans for this, where, you know, you could be watching a TV show and people could be torturing each other and just doing the most depraved, horrible shit on camera. But the main reason my mom didn't want me watching horror movies is because they would have sex scenes. And those were like the worst, most horrible. My mom would get so mad she turned the channel. There's no way you would get in so much trouble if she caught you watching that. But like all the other violence and everything was okay. I was like, okay.
Remind my grandmother that she was watching something that was fiction. My grandmother's response was not to argue the facts. "Leave me alone," she would exclaim, waving my mum's teasing comments away. Mum was right on the facts, but wrong on the feelings. The possibility that what you're watching is real is part of the appeal. Securing that suspension of disbelief is the first order of business for a piece of entertainment. I still remember watching the 2004 movie Crash, which depicts an America being torn apart by bigotry. From rich whites crossing the street to avoid blacks to racist cops sexually assaulting a black woman in front of her husband after pulling them over for no reason, the film chronicles an interconnected weave of discrimination that ends in tragedy. Is the film true? Well, every incident in it is statistically almost certain to have happened to someone somewhere at some time. But is it representative? Does it leave you with an appropriate level of perception of the issue? Do you believe that if you showed Crash to 1,000 people and then asked them questions about race relations, their answer would be the same as before they watched it? And do you imagine their perspective would be made more commensurate with the scale of the problem, or less? In a 2021 survey, people were asked how many unarmed black men are killed in America every year. Here's what they said. The actual number of unarmed black men killed that year was 11. In other words, regardless of political ideology, the majority of Americans exaggerate the scale of the problem by at least a factor of 10. And half of all liberals think 100 times more unarmed black men are killed by the police than actually are. I know these are abstract numbers, so think about it like this. You have $10,000 in the bank. I try to guess how much money you have. My guess is $1 million. That's the level of misunderstanding that's happening here. Media and entertainment are not the only reasons for this, of course. Most people are not remotely statistically literate. This is why men sometimes dismiss the amount of harassment and inappropriate sexual behavior women experience, and why man-hating feminists act like all men are predators. The reality is both are making the same mistake. Men who don't understand what it's like to be a woman assume that most men are like them and the men they know. So there couldn't possibly be a real problem with sexual harassment, according to them. Angry feminists, meanwhile, don't understand that their experiences and those of the women they know are real but are not being committed by statistically representative men. Quite the opposite. Most crime is committed by a very, very small minority of people who are unrepresentative. So it is perfectly possible that simultaneously most men are great and most women experience unwelcome advances, lewd comments, and worse. According to one study, 63% of all violent crime in Sweden was committed by just 1% of the population. Whatever the other correlations, the main thing these people have in common is not their race, income, status, or even the fact that almost all of them are men. It's that they are prepared to be violent in a country where almost everyone else is not. But art is powerful precisely because it bypasses the logical brain and hits you in the gut. Not only because emotions are more powerful than reason, but also because art can be beautiful. And like all beauty, it can be deceptive. A beautiful person is not necessarily a good person, and beautiful art is not necessarily true. So where does this leave adolescence? Well, for a start, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer described this piece of fiction as a documentary and wants it shown in schools up and down the country. I can see why. Whatever you think of the message behind it, adolescence taps into three primal fears that all parents have. The joys of parenthood come with a price. As a friend told me when my son was born, congratulations, your heart is now outside your body and in someone else's. The safety of his or her children is at the very top of every parent's list of worries. Your own mortality is a trivial concern in comparison. The second fear most parents have is the fear of failing their children. A huge part of the impact of adolescence is the sense in which normal parents doing their best end up raising a normal boy who stabs someone to death. And the third fear is the fear of the unknown. The series shows clueless adults attempting to make sense of the soup of modern social media in which their children swim.
I feel like I'm missing a lot of the impact of this because I haven't seen the show. Do people have very strong opinions about the show or something?
The internet is a portal of incomprehensible darkness which can turn your child into a murderer is a terrifying message for parents, especially if they don't actually understand the internet or consider giving young children unsupervised access to it.
The show went extremely viral in the UK.
What's more, the series is beautifully made with great writing, fantastic acting from the entire cast, and no shortage of drama. But is the story Adolescence tells representative? And will the impact it has be proportional or even related to the real problem?
It's very anti-red pill.
I doubt it. If you lived through the COVID pandemic, I hardly need to tell you that people rarely make good decisions when they're afraid. The fact that this series has repeatedly been described as a documentary is extremely worrying. The child killer in Adolescence is 13 years old. According to the Ministry of Justice, just 17% of knife crime offenses are committed by children aged between 10 and 17. If you make the reasonable assumption that the probability of offending rises with age, under 16s are probably responsible for around half of that 17%. He also comes from a stable two-parent home. While we don't have the exact statistics for the UK or for this specific crime, we do know that American children from fatherless homes are 5 times more likely to commit crime and 20 times more likely to end up in prison. That's not my line, it's Barack Obama's. The victim in Adolescence is female. 3/4 of stabbing victims in Britain are male. In other words, in a country in which young men in their late teens and early 20s with little to no male guidance or supervision are stabbing each other to death, we're encouraged to believe that the problem is children.
Okay, I gotcha. He doesn't like the generalization or something. What is this? Hold on, how reputable is this guy? Chief Political Analyst, N12 News. Trump will give Saudi Arabia civilian nuclear capabilities without demanding normalization with Israel in return, according to Reuters. These motherfuckers have so much oil. Why the fuck do they need nuclear reactors? That's pretty spooky. Link that. I want to finish it, you loser. Okay.
From intact households being groomed into misogyny on the internet. Adolescence is an excellent and powerful piece of fiction. It deserves accolades, praise, and recognition. What it does not deserve is to be treated as representative or even particularly useful in understanding what's actually happening in our country. Is Adolescence true?
I'm never playing
Here's what
Expedition
Netflix
33. I don't know
says.
how. Why do you keep
While
spamming
Jamie's
this?
story specifically isn't based on a real person or event, the idea for the series did spring from reports that co-creator Graham had heard about on the news of young boys being involved in knife crimes. There was an incident where a young boy allegedly stabbed a girl, Graham told Netflix. It shocked me. I was thinking, what's going on? Graham is right to be shocked by the story of a young boy allegedly stabbing a girl. It's extremely rare. What is far more common is young men stabbing each other, a problem that is much harder to address with virtue signaling about social media influences and toxic masculinity. Adolescence itself is great.
Wait, is that true?
About social media influences each other. Girl, it's extremely rare. What is far more common is young men stabbing each other, a problem that is much harder to address with virtue signaling about social media influences and toxic masculinity.
I feel like if you were to make a movie or a TV show about young men killing each other in the streets, I feel like masculinity and toxic masculinity and honor culture would be the things that you would explicitly focus on, but okay.
Adolescence itself is great. The reaction to it is deranged.
Have you watched Adolescence yet?
No, I haven't. I probably won't. It's a film on Netflix, and most of my time right now is spent visiting the country.
Why would you not want to know what people are talking about?
Well, I think that those are all important issues, and those were issues that I've been talking about for a long time. But in the same way that I don't need to watch Casualty to know what's going on in the NHS, I don't need to watch a specific Netflix drama to understand what's going on. It's a fictional series. It is not a documentary.
The difference this documentary has made compared to, say, a politician, any politician, leader of a party, the Prime Minister, going around talking in schools, is this has made much more of an impact than any politician has in terms of what people are talking about right now. So it's really confusing that you don't want to know why, how this has made an impact, how parents are now saying we need to know more about smartphone use.
I can read what people are saying about it. I look at research. This is something that I've been looking at for a long time.
You wouldn't want to know
But
straight from the horse's mouth.
One of the things that I'm more bothered by is the fact that just yesterday we had Labour telling us that they're not going to be investigating the rape gang scandal, something which had happened all across the country. That's real. That's happening right now.
This woman
We're
is
not
evil.
talking about that.
Okay.
We're talking about a fictional documentary. We had thousands of, if I may just finish, we had thousands of victims. Female victims, those are girls, young women, and some boys too. I met the mother of a boy who killed himself after being a victim.
Rip.
I want to talk about that because that is real. And yes, I'm glad that the Netflix drama is something that people are talking about, but it is not the only thing.
If you enjoy these videos, you should know that they're available as articles on my Substack days, weeks, and sometimes months ahead of time. Head on over to www.konstantinkissin.com now.
Thanks.
In the next.
Okay.
Today's agreement with the UK is the first in a series of agreements on trade
Oh, we've got one. Oh boy.
that my administration has been negotiating over the past 4 weeks. With this deal, the UK joins the United States in affirming that reciprocity and fairness is an essential and vital principle of international trade.
Thank you.
The
This is
deal
exactly
includes
what I wanted to
billions
hear.
of
Yes.
dollars of increased market access for American exports, especially in agriculture, dramatically increasing
Yes.
access for American beef, ethanol, and virtually all of the products produced by our great farmers. And our
King.
secretary,
King,
as you know,
microphone,
of
yes.
Agriculture is here. Brooke, thank you very much.
Oh, wait. Are they? They're trying to fix it.
You'll let the farmers know. In addition, the UK will reduce or eliminate numerous non-tariff barriers that unfairly discriminated against American products, but this is now turning out, I think, really to be a great deal for both countries because it'll be
Wow.
really great for the UK also.
Good job. Great for the UK.
They're opening up the country. Their country is a little closed, and we appreciate that.
We had a trade surplus, by the way, with the UK prior to any of this bullshit, but okay.
They'll also be fast-tracking American goods through their customs process, so our exports go to a very, very quick form of approval, and there won't be any red tape. Things are going to move very quickly both ways.
Wow.
The final details are being written up in the coming weeks. We'll have it all very conclusive, but the actual deal is a very conclusive one. We think just about everything's been approved. So good for both countries, and we'll also receive new market access for American chemicals, machinery, and many other industrial products that weren't allowed, and they'll end up getting products that they'll be able to price, and if they like them better and we make great products, they'll be buying those products, but they were not available in the UK. Wow. Furthermore, in a historic step, the deal includes plans that will bring the United Kingdom into the economic security alignment with the United States. That's the first of its kind.
Wow.
So we have a big economic security blanket, and that's very important, and we feel very...
Won't the Senate have to ratify any treaty or trade agreement? Bro, I think we've moved on from Congress when it comes to negotiating trade. I think we've just given up on that.
Very comfortable with that because it's been a great ally, truly one of our great allies. I mean,
truly.
A lot of people say our greatest ally. I don't want to insult people by saying that, but I can say it's certainly one of our greatest, and right at the top, and they're the first one we're talking about. And
Destiny, man. Stephen, the port problem is a bigger deal than I've even been telling you about. Trucking is literally fucked.
By the way, we have many meetings planned today and tomorrow, and every country wants to be making deals. And we have a meeting, as you know, Scott will be going over to Switzerland on Saturday, and that'll be very, very interesting. Let's find out, but I think they want to make a deal very badly, too. Both countries have agreed that the economic security is national security and will be working together as allies to ensure that we have a strong industrial base, appropriate export controls, and protections for key technologies and industries like steel. Steel is a big factor. Both countries will become stronger with steel and things necessary for military. You know, we used to build ships and other things literally at a level that nobody's ever seen, and we've eased up.
Why do the people have a hate boner for The Last of Us 2? So The Last of Us 2 subreddit was an anti-fan subreddit created for The Last of Us 2, and I think the two big things that they had issues with were, one, that, spoiler alert, Joel dies, which was a very brave decision for The Last of Us 2, and then two, that that the Abby person, is that her name, was like they theorized that she was a trans person, and they don't like that you didn't get to kill her in the end. I think these were the two huge issues, and then also lesbians, I guess. But it ended up becoming like a huge culture war, like calling card, basically. So people got really ass pained over that. And then also the actress is, I guess, unconventional. Like, she's not like a super attractive actress or anything. So people also don't like that.
Up, and I would say that the UK certainly eased up, but now we're going to be uneasing both, and we work together. Once again, I want to thank Prime Minister Starmer. He's been terrific for his partnership in this matter, the special relationship and external bond. It's really an external and an internal bond between our two countries. Will soon be...
How many trans people are there? I don't believe there are any trans people, but they just say she's trans because she's muscular. She's lean. Play Wolfenstein The New Order and Wolfenstein The New Colossus. Save Fergus. He's older. You'll love BJ Blackovich. He's an Aryan liberal Chad. Trust fam. It will cleanse you effective. I think I played one or both of those games. They were good games.
Bond.
Oh, apparently there is a trans kid in the game. Okay, I don't know.
Really an external and an internal bond between our two countries will soon be stronger than ever before. And we really do. We have a great relationship. I want to just say that the representatives of UK have been so professional, and it's been an honor doing business with all of them, and in particular the Prime Minister. And
true.
I'd like to introduce him now to say a few words. Mr. Prime Minister, please take it away.
Thank you, Mr. President, Donald, and this is a really fantastic, historic day in which we can announce this deal between our two great countries, and I think it's a real tribute to the history that we have of working so closely together. Can I pay tribute, Donald, to your negotiating team as well, particularly Howard and Jameson, who've done an incredible job, a very professional job, and my team as well. Two negotiating teams have worked at pace now for a number of weeks to bring in this deal today. Really important deal. This is going to boost trade between and across our countries. It's going to not only protect jobs but create jobs, opening market access. And as you say, Donald, the timing couldn't be more apt, because not only was it 80 years ago today that victory came for Europe after and at the end of the Second World War, but of course on that day the UK and the US stood together as the closest of allies. And Donald, I think even down to the hour, because you may or may not know that it was about this time of day, exactly 80 years ago, that Winston Churchill announced victory in Europe.
Wasn't Winston Churchill the main bad guy in World War II?
Celebrations across Europe, across America, but particularly in the United Kingdom. Literally people going out into the street, putting bunting up, going up to the palace. And so to be able to announce this great deal on the same day, 80 years forward, almost at the same hour, and as we were 80 years ago, with the UK and the US standing side by side, I think is incredibly important and makes this truly historic. That close relationship has endured over those 80 years. As you know, Donald, when it comes to defence and security and intelligence sharing, of course, there are no two countries that are closer than our two countries.
True.
And now we take this into new and important territory by adding trade and the economy to the closeness of our relationship. It is built, as you say, on those notions of fairness and reciprocal arrangements. We've always had a fair and balanced arrangement between our countries. This builds on that, hugely important for sectors like car manufacturing and for steel and aluminium and so many others.
Aluminium?
And yes, we can finish ironing out some of the details, but there's a fantastic platform here, including, of course, on the tech side, where I think I'm right in saying we're the only two Western countries.
Wait, new pope? It's a good thing, no? Trade deal with UK Poker? I mean, it's better than not. It's just, everything about this is a catastrophe, my friend. It's going to take forever before he's introduced. Okay, well.
With trillion-dollar sectors when it comes to tech. And in the end, it comes down to, as you say, Donald, economic security is national security. On national security, we've been absolutely the closest of allies for so many years, keeping the peace through that close alliance, that friendship. And we add to that this deal on trade and the economy. And I want to thank you for your leadership on that, Donald, and for the way in which your team have negotiated this. And I'm so pleased that we've got this deal, we've finalised it, and we've built an incredible platform for the future. So thank you so much. Donald, I'm now going to go and do a press conference. I think you have your press in with you. But on the details, I think if you've got Howard, we can deal with that through one of my team.
That's great. Well, Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much. It's an honor. We're going to have a continued, maybe a better relationship than ever before. You know,
better than ever before.
I don't know if the media knows, but the U.S. and UK have been working for years to try and make a deal. And it never quite got there.
Yeah.
It did with this Prime Minister. So I want to just congratulate you.
Well, with this President, this Prime Minister, we've managed to achieve what many people have tried to achieve for many years. Right. And I'm really pleased. And it feels completely historic and on a special 80-year anniversary as well. So, Donald, thank you so much. It's really good to have got this deal over the line. Tribute to both teams, tribute to our countries, and tribute to your leadership.
Wow. It really is a great thing. And you go do your press conference, and I'll see you soon. Maybe speak to you later. But thank you very much. And an incredible thing. I can't tell you that for so many years, even as I sat, everybody talked and talked and talked about a deal with, it just seemed like a natural deal, but it was not done. But now it was
For years, people talked about a bilateral trade agreement with the UK? Okay, all right.
With us, so I feel very proud to have been a part of it. Keir, thank you very much.
Thanks, Donald. We'll speak again soon.
Very good. So long. Bye. Why don't I do this? Why don't I have our Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, give a little description of the deal pretty quick, and then the good side, the very nice side, we'll be speaking about it also, maybe, from so you get a pretty equal. I think it's a very, it's just been a deal that was, we thought, very complicated. It became very simple. It's opening up the country that we really didn't have the kind of access to that I would have thought. I was surprised. I think it's why the deal never got done before. It was, you know, they've been working on this deal for 25 years, And we got it done, and we got it done. Really, it's going to be great for both countries. So, Sarah, if you could go, and then somebody else, you may have, you'll pick whoever you want who'd like to do it. I have a feeling you're going to do it, right? So you guys go ahead, and then we'll take questions right after that. But I think you'll get a pretty good understanding of how big it is. It's a very large deal, very big deal. And Howard, go ahead.
So the UK is the 6th largest economy in the world and the 4th largest that we export to, right? So it's a huge market, a top 10 market. If you remember Liberation Day, they were at 10% because we have balanced trade with the UK. Right? They say they have a surplus, but of course that counts gold bullion, which is, so let's just call it balanced trade. So how do you open up a market in balanced trade? People think it's impossible. They've always thought it was impossible until...
Literally, no one has thought it's impossible. No one has said it's impossible. Nobody has said that ever, but okay.
President Trump came on the scene and changed the way things work. So here's what we've got. We've opened up new market access. Ethanol, beef, machinery, all the agricultural products. They've agreed to open their markets, and that will add $5 billion of opportunity to American exporters. So the question is, why would they do that now? Because they've never done it before. And we still have our 10% tariff on, which will produce $6 billion of revenue for the United States. So the idea was, how do they keep their jobs, protect their economy, and do the best for their people while opening the market for us? And the way is they studied it, their team was exceptional, and they tried to figure out the markets that they're importing from other people and try to send them over to America. So why were they always favoring others and not us? And what they've done is they found the ways to do that so that we have new access, right? But the UK workers are protected, and that was the balance. So we did a deal with them in automobiles. And you know, if you're not building here, we charge you a 25% tariff. But the president, and by the way, I want to make this clear, while Jameson and I worked hard, this was the president's deal. And people think, oh, that's not the way it works. If you got to sit next to him, I have the best deal maker to my left. And if you don't think that we take advantage of him calling the prime minister and getting that deal done, you don't understand who's the president of the United States. So he's the closer. He gets deals done that we could never get done because he understands business, he understands deals, and that's why we're here today. So he agreed they could send 100,000 cars into America and only pay a 10% tariff. And that protects their car industry. And remember, we do 16 million cars a year. So this is only like 0.6%. But for the UK...
America, I love you. Actually, no, I hate your cars. Fuck American cars. Most Europeans and most other countries don't want huge trucks. That's what we like here. In the United States, I'm pretty sure, unless it's changed, somebody can link me if I'm wrong, but our top two most best-selling vehicles here are the Chevy Silverado and the Ford F-150, right? I don't think Ford even makes cars anymore. I think they only make Mustangs, and I think like the Ford Fiesta. I don't even know if they make that. But literally just, I think they killed every car except for the Mustang and maybe one more. Like, Americans just don't like cars as much as trucks, and Europeans don't like trucks.
Auto people, this is tens of thousands of jobs that the president agreed that he would protect for them, so he made that deal, right? Then steel and aluminum, right? Their steel business has been destroyed like everybody else has been destroyed by people dumping steel into their markets. And British Steel had announced it was closing down. So the British government, as part of this deal, nationalized British Steel, and they're going to match the kinds of models we do. They'll put tariffs on, they'll put quotas on. They want to do it with America so they can be part of the resurgence of steel and aluminum in America, and that saves them, again, thousands and thousands of jobs. So,
just curious, what is this big fascination with trucks from Americans? What is it all about? I guess, like, you got to keep in mind the world was pretty built up, and then the new world was discovered, and we just had so much space that the huge amount of space we had kind of led to an obsession with living a lifestyle that took advantage of all that space. So huge homes with big lawns and, big cars driving everywhere. It was just like kind of part of our, I would say like part of our like American heritage, basically.
if you go step by step, aero and commercial planes, they sell Rolls-Royce engines to Boeing. We've agreed to let Rolls-Royce engines and those kind of plane parts to come over tariff-free. And what you're going to hear today is there's going to be an announcement in the UK that they are buying $10 billion worth of Boeing planes later today, but I'm going to let the name of the airline announce it because that's theirs to do it. Part of this deal was always to do it together and to do it strong, and you can see the numbers on this board.
Can an American explain to me how real estate guys qualify to speak on commerce? Do they not understand that these require completely different business skills? Who's the real estate guy? Are you talking about Lutnick, or are you talking about Trump? Because Trump is not a good real estate guy. I don't even know where that reputation comes from. He has like some gaudy real estate that people know about, like Trump Tower Trip, but I don't know if Trump is even known as being necessarily a great real estate guy. I don't even, his brand is his brand. He was a reality TV show guy. That's where he made most of his fame and wealth from.
Everything about this board works exceptionally well for the United States of America. It lays out the plan that you can work with us in autos, you can work with us with aero and commercial, you can work with us in pharmaceuticals if you have a supply chain.
How much do you buy the theory that Obama's mile per gallon requirements fucked over sedans? I mean, as a person who was always into like JDMs or like just compacts in general, even growing up, because I was always because I when I started driving, okay, I did have issues with money and I did want to conserve on like gas mileage and shit. So I always drove compacts. Like even growing up, like before Obama, compacts were just always dog shit in America. Car companies just didn't make good, maybe sedans, but like especially compact cars, they just didn't make good compact cars. But that was just known. Like if you were buying an American compact, it was just going to be dog shit. I think American car companies just never really had much of a drive to invest in and develop that part of their automobile manufacturing because they just made so much more money selling big ass fucking vehicles. And that's what most people wanted.
That is secure and protected in national security. So we feel really good about the deal. You've heard the Prime Minister, he feels really good about the deal, right? And we started at 10% and we ended at 10%. And the market for America is better. And this is a perfect example of why Donald Trump produced Liberation Day. People don't understand he gets things done in a matter of time. This would have taken Jameson and I 3 years, maybe. And instead, we got it done in 45 days, certainly, because we worked for Donald Trump. So, Jameson, my partner in all this, maybe Jameson, you'd like to talk a little, and then we'll turn it over to the UK.
Sure, happy to do that. Everyone
So brave.
has great remarks. I just have to echo the President and the Prime Minister when we talk about VE Day. This is something we've been waiting for decades, and there's no more appropriate date to do this. And when we step back and we look back a few weeks from now, or months from now, or years from now, we're going to look back at this day and better appreciate the significance, I think. And I'll just say as well, in terms of negotiating, I mean, UK negotiators, we've got one right here, did an incredible job, right? This is why you win wars, right? When you act like this. And the ambassador, he knows more about trade than a lot of us here based on his background. And I would say on this deal, Mr. President, what we've shown is that it is time to change the way we do trade. People said we couldn't do a global tariff. We did a global tariff. They said no one would want to deal with us. People want to deal. They said no one give offers. You saw that stack of offers I showed you yesterday of all those countries. Said we wouldn't get deals, and here we are with the deal with the 6th largest economy. We've agreed to have fair and reciprocal.
People said that you wouldn't be able to negotiate 150 fucking trade deals in 45 days or 90 days. That's what people said. The fact that you're bragging about getting a singular deal with the only country that we already had a trade surplus with that is probably identical to the last trade deal that we had is not something to be bragging about, but whatever.
Trade, and we've done it in record time.
Thank you very much, sir. Great job.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Ambassador, please. Well, Mr. President, thank you very much indeed in hosting us this morning. And thank you very much indeed also for that very typical 11th hour intervention by you with your phone call to the President, demanding even more out of this deal than any of us expected. So thank you for that. The Prime Minister was delighted, obviously, to take that call late at night. But you took it to another level. And I think the point I would make is twofold. One is that if we're going to rebalance and rebuild international trade in a way that serves all our interests, then we're better doing that together than separately and apart, and that's what we're on a mission to do. But secondly, you've done what you said you would do. You said to the Prime Minister when he came and we visited in the Oval that you would do a good trade deal with the United Kingdom, that you would do it at pace, and that we would be first. And you have delivered that. You've been true to your word. So thank you very much indeed for that.
Thank you.
For us, it's not the end. It's the end just of the beginning. I mean, there is yet more we can do in reducing tariffs and trade barriers so as to open up our markets to each other even more than we are agreeing to do today. But it also provides us with the platform, the springboard, to do what I think will be even more valuable for both our countries in the future, and that's creating a technology partnership between the United States and the United Kingdom so that we can harness science and technology in order to create future industries and future jobs. And to do that together in the way we work so closely already in the national security and defense area, we can just take that to yet further areas of science, enterprise and endeavor. So we're looking forward to doing that in the coming months. You've launched us extremely well today. It just, in my view, as the Prime Minister has said, just shows what two countries who trust each other, who are confident in each other and are familiar with each other can do, not just for ourselves, but for the rest of the world who need to benefit from a bigger and better international trading system.
Damn.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stated. What a beautiful accent.
That's fucking amazing.
I'd like to have that accent. Thank you. My mother would be proud. Thank you very much. Any questions?
James Matthews from Sky News.
Yes.
Can I ask, why Britain and why now? And we describe this deal as a fool.
Can you explain why you should not glaze Trump to get a better deal as a European country? It's kind of like a prisoner's dilemma thing. If you glaze, like European leaders probably think they need to glaze Trump because they don't want to get left in the cold and have their shit completely fucked, which to some extent is true. But if people start capitulating to Trump like that, then that means that Trump has shown that you're basically demonstrating to Trump that his model works, which means he's going to continue on this path, and then everybody is slowly going to get fucked as the United States thinks it can just bully anybody into whatever wacky, crazy, retarded deal ever, which like Europeans need to stand probably together and strong. Now, the UK left the European Union, so they're a little bit on their own as well, but
and comprehensive deal.
It's a different thing maybe for them.
Since the end of the beginning. Clearly, there's much more work still to do. With respect, are you overstating the reach and significance of this deal because you're a president who needs a result at a difficult time?
I think that it's a great deal for both parties. It's for us. We're opened up. I didn't know how closed it was. Quite closed, the market, as you know, the UK, and it opens up a tremendous market for us, and it works out very well, and. A lot of assets. You see the chart, and those are tremendous assets. But we've been trying, and when you say why us, meaning your country, we've been trying for years, and they've been trying for years to make a deal, including when I was in the first term. It would always be people talking, but they weren't getting it done. But for 25 years before that, they were trying always to make a deal, a very significant deal. I actually, until I looked at the numbers, I didn't realize this is a very conclusive deal, but we think we can grow it even from that. But this is a maxed out deal, not like you said it.
Maxed out.
You said it really incorrectly. This is a maxed out deal that we're going to make bigger. And we make it bigger through growth. But we have tremendous assets involved. I was surprised to see how big your country is in trade, actually. One of the biggest in technology and so many other things. It's agriculture.
I realized I didn't know fuck all
depending on
about
your definition, it's
anything.
from 4 to 5 to 6. That's pretty big in the world. So I was very impressed by that. But we're going to take it to new levels. It's a very big deal right now. But I think it is going to grow just of its own volition. It's going to grow. And over time, there'll be changes made. There'll be adjustments made because we're flexible. We'll see things that we can do even better. But it's very conclusive, and we think everyone's going to be happy, and the people of your country are going to be very impressed with the result, and they'll be able to buy from more people. They'll be able to price things differently. They'll be able to get some products that aren't available to them now that we make better than anybody in the world.
Okay.
And it's just something that it's a great thing that it came together. It's so nice because we have
Good job,
many
guys.
countries want to make a deal, and many countries are very unhappy that we happen to choose this one, to be honest with you. But long time, our oldest ally, or just about. There's a couple of people claim that too, but let's put it right at the top. I think it's going to be something very special for UK and special for the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reagan Reese with the Daily Caller. How close are you to more deals than what you expect the next to be announced?
Well, very close. We have numerous deals. I know Howard's going back. As soon as this is finished, your press conference, he's got numerous. And Scott, who's right over here, who's fantastic, by the way. You were great on television this morning. I watched you. He gave them a little lesson in the world and economics. But Scott's going to be going to Switzerland, meeting with China. And they very much want to make a deal. We can all play games. Who made the first call? Who didn't make it doesn't matter. It only matters what happens in that room. But I will tell you that China very much wants to make a deal. We'll see how that works out. Every country throughout the last 40, 50 years has literally ripped off the United States on trade.
Every
on military,
country,
on taxes,
including you
all the
fuckers.
we are now making fair deals. And in this case, it's great because we really weren't very much involved. You have the European Union, which is, I think,
A scam.
you made the right decision years ago. I don't know if you remember, I was opening up Turnberry the day that you were voting, and they asked me, would it happen or would it not happen? I said, no, I think they're going to go their own separate way. I think it's better for them.
Good job for
and they
leaving,
did. I think
guys.
it's going to end up being a very smart decision. But a big part of that decision was always that you'd be able to make a deal with the United States, and they were unable to do that. But now they made it, and it's a tremendous, it's very important. That was always a big part of your decision on Brexit. And they were never able to make that deal. It was, it was a tough one. And this one it's amazing with time. This one just went very smoothly, went quickly and smoothly, and a lot of common sense, as I like to say. There's tremendous common sense, but it's going to make your country much bigger in terms of trade, and it's going to make our country much bigger in terms of trade, too. Yes, it is. Go ahead, behind you.
Oh, yeah. The BBC. Thank you, Mr. President. You mentioned beef.
You're with who?
The BBC.
Oh, good. Very nice. They treat me beautifully.
You mentioned beef export. The UK currently doesn't accept American beef because of its own food standards.
The UK doesn't accept American beef. Oh no, he's asking a specific question about the trade deal. Will Trump have an answer? Does Trump know anything whatsoever at all about any of the trade deal? Here we go.
Are you calling on the UK to accept all American beef and chicken?
Well, I think they'll take what they want. We have plenty of it. We have every type. We have every classification you can have. As you know, Bobby Kennedy is doing a tremendous job, and he's, I think, probably heading toward your system with...
Bobby, what does RFK have to do with the trade with the...
Take what they want. We have plenty of it. We have every type. We have every classification you can have. As you know, Bobby Kennedy is doing a tremendous job, and he's, I think, probably heading toward your system with no chemical, no this, no that. I think we're heading that way. It seems to be.
Okay.
And but we have that also. So we have a very big country. We have a lot of beef. We're a very big country, so it'll be great. Yes. Yes.
You want me to jump?
Yes.
Let's talk about American beef really quickly. And it
Let's
can't be
do it.
understated. I'm Brooke Rollins, by the way. How important this deal is.
Yeah, I guess our beef is going to become like British beef. Okay.
And what this means to American farmers and ranchers. Specific to the beef, this is going to exponentially increase our beef exports. And to be very clear, American beef is the safest, the best quality, and the crown jewel of American agriculture for the world. So I think a really important part of this deal isn't just the ethanol reducing of tariffs from 19 to 0, which for our row croppers is a huge deal, but also for beef. And as we move forward, I ask quality and the crown jewel of American agriculture for the world. So I think a really important part of this deal isn't just the ethanol reducing of tariffs from 19 to 0, which for our row croppers is a huge deal, but also for beef. And as we move forward, I know our incredible trade team is looking at all of the meats, all of the produce, really all of our agriculture exports. And I don't know if there's an industry that has been treated more unfairly and has suffered more than our agriculture industry. So we look forward to, I'll be in the UK on Monday, talking to my counterpart over there for next week, and look forward to moving that out across the country. The president is
I think we can say that we have the best in the world, best tractors, the best everything in the world, and they say that our agriculture is second to none, you understand, and it'll be a great asset. People are going to be able to have options, choice, and they'll have more of it, and that usually means lower prices. How about we'll do you, and then you. Go ahead.
Question for the Kenyan TV, Angelo, and exciting to become content media. So congratulations for the deal. We see a big revenues from the chart, but what's the rest of Europe? It's a big trade, but other European countries, it seems like...
Well, we intend to make a deal with Europe. We have found that the European Union treated us extremely unfairly, they're very difficult, and hurt themselves in doing so. And they very much want to make a deal. We'll be dealing with them. We are dealing with them currently. So that'll cover pretty much the rest of it. But this was separate because of Brexit in particular. This was a separate deal. It always seems so natural. I mean, all the media would say that this seemed to be like, why did this happen 25 years? Why didn't it happen a long time ago? And it was always amazing to me. Somebody would say, hey, we got to make a deal. We have to make a deal. But this deal just fell into place. The Prime Minister did a fantastic job. His representatives are total professionals, and they got along well. And it just seemed to work. And I think one of the reasons it did is because we blew up the whole system. If we would have just been dealing with you separately or, country by country, we blew up the whole system. It was very very unfair to the United States. And I think because of that, this worked out so nicely. And I'm honored that it was the first deal. Please.
Sir, you mentioned...
Well, why don't you go in the back, yes?
Oh, thanks, sir. I'm with the London Times. I'll say this is a great day for James Bond because now Aston Martins will be available to American buyers. Will it be even better by extending it to film? You've talked about a big tariff on films, and we'd like to know if there'd be relief on British...
Well, we're going to have a discussion on that separately. And as you know, we're
having a separate discussion on the film tariffs, so you don't even have a comprehensive fucking trade deal. You have nothing. This is nothing. It's nothing. It's just, what is it? Just an agreement to bring down tariffs? What is a trade deal if you're not even talking about your film industry because you talk about levying tariffs on everybody related to movie? Like, what is this trade deal? Concepts of a plan, yeah.
Tariffs on that particular film, he said, the movie makers, and we're going to be doing some tariffs to get them because a lot of them have left this country. They all live here, the money comes from here, everything comes from here, but they make them in other countries. So we're going to do something to bring them back, maybe to a large extent. But James Bond has nothing to worry about that, I can tell you. James Bond. And Sean Connery was a friend of mine. Sean Connery was responsible for my getting zoning in Aberdeen. He said, let the bloody bloke build his golf courses. I was like 4 years into the process, and it was impossible in Aberdeen. And he just stood up one day and he said that. As soon as he said that, I got the approvals in about 2 minutes.
Epic, dude.
He was a great guy, Sean Connery, and great character.
Later in the year.
Say it?
You go to Scotland and
yeah, I will be, sure. We have a lot of investment over there. We have Turnberry, Aberdeen. We have, as you know, in Doonbeg in Ireland, right on the ocean. They're all in the ocean. I only have interest if they're on the ocean. And we have good investments over there. Beautiful. Yes?
Mr. President, if the talks go well this weekend between Secretary Bessent and Ambassador Greer with Chinese counterparts, not preemptively, but if the talks go well, would you then consider lowering the tariff rate on China?
Well, it could be. I mean, we're going to see right now, you can't get any higher. It's at 145, so we know it's coming down. I think we're going to have a very good relationship. I always got along very well with President Xi. That relationship was greatly disturbed by COVID when COVID came in, but we get along very well now. I mean, the relationship was hurt with a lot of people, a lot of countries when COVID came in, but I think we're going to have a very good relationship. I expect...
Here's what they actually negotiated. Reciprocal tariffs, United Kingdom. What is this retarded picture? 10%, 10%. United Kingdom trade deal. New market access, 5 billion exports. Tariff revenue, 6 billion external revenue. UK tariffs were 5.1%, now 1.8%. US tariffs are now 10%. They were 3.4%. Unprecedented. What is this? This is the most retarded, random, fucking schizo picture I've ever seen in my entire life. Okay. This is not real. Also, this is what is this? Whatever.
To have a very good relationship with China, Scott. I think it's a very friendly meeting. They look forward to doing it in an elegant way. China, as you know, has a tremendous trade surplus with us, and we just can't have that. But I think it's going to be very good for both countries. I would like to see China opened. One of the big things here is, and nobody would know this, but the UK was largely closed. It was very much closed to trade.
True, nobody would know this. Nobody had any idea until you told us, Trump.
Because it's so much. I listen to them. I hope they get countries opened up. And then you compete on a fair basis, but you can't compete when you're not allowed to go there. China would be the number one example of that. It's very closed. We almost had it last time before COVID, and that didn't work out. But we made a great deal with China. They had about $50 billion worth of our food products, and it was a great deal, doing very well for our farmers. And then when Biden came in, as usual, nothing happened. He didn't enforce it, and it got less, and ultimately, destroyed a great deal. That was a great deal. But no, I think that we're gonna have a good weekend with China. I think they have a lot to gain.
I do think they have far more to gain than we do in a sense, but we're going to have I think we're going to have a very good weekend.
Will you speak to Xi after the weekend talks?
I might, yeah, sure, depending on what Scott says. We Scott is doing certain countries and Howard's doing certain countries. I mean, I wish I had like 10 more of each, then we could do them all at one time. But there will be a time, we'll do a number of them, and then there'll be a time, I think I can say to Scott and Howard, where we're just going to say, because we understand the countries, we understand what they want, where we're just going to make the deal. In other words, we don't need the country involvement because we've already had it. And we'll say this particular country, which had big surpluses, let's say, we had therefore deficits, that this particular country is going to pay a 25% tariff or 30% or 50% or 10% or whatever it may be. I think we should explain it now. One of the things we did here that we'll rarely do is on cars, we took it from 25 to 10 on Rolls-Royce because Rolls-Royce is not going to be built here. I wouldn't even ask them to do that. It's a very special car, and it's a very limited number too. It's not, one of the monster car companies that makes millions of cars. They make a very small number of cars that are super luxury, and that includes Bentley and Jaguar. So we have some very special cars. So in order to help that industry, and that's really, handmade stuff. They've been doing it for a long time in the same location. And I said, yeah, that would be good. Let's help them out with that one. But that's different than a car company that comes out and makes millions of cars, which they'll be doing in our country. They're going to build
he's actually just so fucking
factories,
stupid.
car plants
He's just so
being
dumb.
built or going to be built very soon. I think we can say that we'll be close to $10 trillion of investment. I think we're actually at that number now. If you add up some of the ones
when
we
you just
haven't heard
make
about
shit
yet.
up, you can
We
be
have
whatever
some
you
going up
want.
right now.
Yeah.
They have plants going up, and they haven't even spoken to us. They're doing it because of the tariffs. And tariffs have always been used against us, and I never understood. I used to sit back. As you know, China paid hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs when I was president, but until then, China never paid anything. And, they really did a big number on us from the standpoint of trade. But we are using tariffs now for our benefit, and we have now close to $10 trillion. Think of that, $10 trillion.
10
if you look at
trillion,
the past
guys.
administration,
Do you even know
and
how
we're
much
talking about
money that is?
Essentially 2 months, because we could say 3, but it took a little while to get the office in perfect shape, right? It took a little while to get things done. But once we started, when you think of that, close to $10 trillion of investment.
Sir, epic.
You've had years where the United States wouldn't do that wouldn't do $1 trillion a year, wouldn't do anywhere near $1 trillion.
True.
We did $10 trillion in 2 months.
2 months.
It's amazing what's happening. We're getting calls from, and that has to do with chips, has to do with cars. We used to make chips. We had Intel, and we used to make chips. We had a monopoly on chips. Everything was made here, and now, over a period of years, because the presidents didn't know what they were doing, they allowed that business to be stolen from us. Most of it moved to Taiwan. And you probably were in the same position, right? Because you had a lot of the chip-making capacity, but they moved it in. And if we would have said, that's fine. If you want to move it to Taiwan, that's good. But if you want to sell back into the United States, we're going to put a 50% or 100% tariff on, they would have never left. But we had people sitting here that didn't understand that, and it's too bad. But now they're coming back, because I'm saying it about 40 years too late. But they're coming back. As you know, we have the biggest chip makers in the world spending, in one case, $300 billion, in one case...
Quite an exchange just now between Senator Merkley and FBI Director Kash Patel over whether due process applies to people targeted by the Alien Enemies Act. Patel, your position is that every one of these individuals is by constitutional right afforded due process. I don't know the answer to that. You haven't read the Constitution. I've got it right here. But what you're saying is that every single one of the illegals that was sent down to El Salvador is supposed to be given due process pursuant to. That's what the Constitution says. It doesn't say that. It does say no person. I'll encourage you to read it. I read it every day. Because it's also been affirmed by the Supreme Court repeatedly, Miranda v. Arizona, Reno v. Flores, but it's the plain language of the Constitution. It concerns me that you're not familiar with the core concepts of due process applying to all persons as written in black and white in the Constitution. As the first public defender who's ever served the FBI as its director, I am more aware of due process than any predecessor in my seat. You're delineating between removal proceedings and criminal acts. My job is to investigate criminal acts. That's true. What does the FBI have to do with any of this, actually? I don't even know why Patel would be questioned about this. I don't know if Patel or the FBI would have anything to do with removal proceedings or immigration-related stuff. They would turn those over to the DHS, I would imagine, or ICE, more specifically. You're aware that the Fifth Amendment refers to taking away liberty, and when people are arrested on the street, detained, their liberty is taken away. Is the FBI doing that right now? Patel showed up to the Budget Appropriations Committee without a budget, by the way, based.
$500 billion, same as Apple. And in another case, $200 billion. And we're going to have a large share, a very, very substantial share of...
He invoked the Alien Enemies Act, no? Wouldn't it have been Trump?
The chip-making market.
Jesus.
Be a friendly visit, but do you expect that it will just be a formality to break the ice, or are they going to get into substantive negotiations?
I believe so, yes. I believe it's substantive, yes.
Substantive.
I think people like to say, yes, we're having a meeting to meet. Well, we're meeting, so what are we going to do, talk about meeting again? So I think it's going to be substantive. I think we can say that, right, Scott? Very substantive. Now, China wants to do something. And look, they have to at this point. Essentially, they made $1 trillion a year, and now they have absolutely no business because of the tariffs. They have no business, and they want to have business. And we want them to have business. We want them to do well. We want them to do very well. So I think it's going to be very substantive.
Because business has slowed down, as you mentioned.
In China.
But we're seeing as a result, the ports here in the U.S., the traffic has really slowed, and now thousands of dock workers and truck drivers are worried about their jobs.
Yeah, no, that means we lose less money. Yeah.
Really slowed, and now In China. But we're seeing as a result, the ports here in the U.S., the traffic has really slowed, and now thousands of dock workers and truck drivers are worried about their jobs.
Yeah, no, that means we lose less money. You know, when
That's good. It's good that all these people are losing their jobs. It's good that we have far less business coming through our ports. That's good because we're losing less money. Holy shit. Okay, based.
That means we lose less money. Look, China was making over $1 trillion, 1.1 trillion, in my opinion. You know, different numbers from 500 billion to a trillion or a trillion. I think it was 1.1 trillion. And frankly, if we didn't do business, we would have been better off. Okay, you understand that?
He's got the best numbers.
So when you say it slowed down, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. But we're going to make it so they can. I'd like to say they can do better. Actually, in terms of the bottom line, we'd like to see China opened up so we can compete in China and give people something that they've never had. Access to something that'd be great for the world. It would be great for our businesses, and I think it would be great for friendship. I really expect a lot of people think I'm a militant guy. I'm really not. I think that. Trade can bring a greater friendship with China. It can be something good. But, one of the things that I know Scott's going to be talking about very high on the list is open up and let our businesses go into China, because when you talk about a closed country, that's a really closed country. And I think it would be great if it was opened up. It'd give people a lot of choice and would create a lot of jobs, a lot of everything. So I think it would be a great thing for China. And that's going to be one of the things we'll be discussing, like we discussed with UK.
Yeah, please. So what does Britain have to do to drop the baseline 10% tariff that will maintain?
Well, I think that's set because that has to do with a lot of different things, including past. There are a lot of past things that we talk. This is very inclusive. We included everything, and that's pretty well set. Yeah, please.
Yeah, Mr. President, the 10% baseline tariff remaining in place, is that a template for these future trade deals?
No.
Keep it here?
No.
Is it going to stay in every case?
No, that's a low number. They made a good deal. Some will be much higher because they have massive.
Wait, so the deal with the UK does include a 10% tariff on everything? How cucked do you have to be if you're a bonger? Holy shit. Really? Yes? Jesus.
Trade surpluses, and in many cases they didn't treat us right. One thing with UK, they had somewhat closed, not like a China as an example, but they always treated us with great respect. They treated us with great respect. The template of 10 is probably the lowest, and therefore they made that deal. But they. We've had just a very special relationship with them. Like, I won't do that deal with cars. I mean, unless somebody shows me that there's another kind of a car that's comparable to a Rolls Royce, and there aren't too many. This is a good commercial for Rolls Royce. I wonder whether you'd like to buy.
Well,
the last time this happened, I would be happy to suggest a discount, obviously a very modest discount.
Oh, I guess, by the way, depending on how things roll out, this could be your first example of seeing directly the impacts of Brexit. Is that the UK is not capable of negotiating a powerful trade deal on their own. They maybe could as part of a collective market like the European Union, but now that they've dropped from the European Union and they're isolated on their own, they're forced to accept a substandard or a subpar trade deal where they literally are happy to sign a deal saying they have a 10% tariff across the entire export market to the United States. British or India is legit going to war right now, by the way. Cool.
I've had many of them, actually. The last time that happened, I ended up buying a Tesla.
Tesla.
I had a question about the UK deal today. I heard there was.
Do you think that you won't have a 10% tariff? I would be surprised if the entire European Union collectively signed on to a 10% tariff. That's just such a wacky deal. That's so wacky.
That part of the agreement would depend on whether the UK would respect free speech and freedom of religion. I know the VP is really interested in that. Talked about that earlier this year. Was there any assurances that you guys got on that front?
You want to handle that?
Yeah, that was not part of the conversation. Our conversation was an economic conversation from start to finish, closed by the president yesterday. This was a business deal, open their markets, and also protect their workers, grow our markets, and help our workers.
This was about business religion. Business is sort of semi-religion.
God, I love this fucking dick sucks. You see him? Oh my God, he's such a fucking loser. Holy shit.
This was about business religion.
Clapping?
Business is sort of a semi-religion.
Oh my God, kill me, dude. So cringe.
Will you be asking China to help you close the gap between Ukraine and Russia?
I think so, yeah. I think it's a natural thing to ask.
What do you expect?
Sure. I don't know. I think we're making good progress. The fighting is a little bit different than it was. I think if we weren't involved, Russia would be going at it to maybe get the whole thing. And without our involvement, they'd be able to get it because we supplied a lot of different things, foolishly. But we've been sort of paid back by doing the rare earth deal that I talked about before. I think that
rare earths.
I think that we will be very much involved in trying to get that bloodbath. It's a bloodbath. It's a horrible situation. 5,000. It's really more than that. But it's 5,000 soldiers on average a week. Mostly soldiers are being killed. Young, beautiful people. I mean, they're being killed. I see the satellite pictures coming back. Body parts lying all over fields, heads and arms. It's so terrible. I've never seen anything like it, actually. And if we can get that stopped, that would be a great accomplishment. And we're trying very hard. And I think we're close. And Mr. Witkoff is talking constantly back and forth. He's a real professional. He's got a great relationship with both countries. And I think we have a good chance. And likewise, we're trying to work on Iran to get that solved without having to get into any
any bombing, as we say, big bombing. I don't want to do that.
Okay, here's your Pope. Oh, shit. Breaking news. This is from Open Source Zone. I don't know how credible or not credible this is, but Donald Trump privately urged Speaker Mike Johnson on a phone call Wednesday to raise the top tax rate, per Punchbowl News. Uh-oh. Trump's worried about that deficit. Uh-oh. Is there any person we want to be Pope? I don't know. I don't really give a fuck at all. What? Oh my god, he's wearing a suit. There's two popes. Imagine it was Fauci. Oh my god.
Annuncio vobis gaudium magnum. Habemus papam. Eminentissimum. Ac
The Pope still has to
reverendissimum
come.
Dominum.
Oh, this isn't the Pope? Is he the Pope's introducer?
Dominum Robertum Franciscum, Sancte Romane Ecclesiae, Cardinalem Prevost. Qui sibi nomen imposuit Leonem decimum quartum.
You're a Catholic, what's he saying? He said, chill, everybody. The real dude's coming out in a second. He has to play an intro song for the stream. Are they allowed to do that? Trying to be excommunicated, is that even a thing anymore? I don't know when the last person who was excommunicated was. America! Wait, did they already announce it? Nope, but we're sitting here, we're gonna watch this the entire fucking time because people in chat keep fucking spamming every time some new piece of news is announced, so now we're just gonna wait for it to happen because you retards keep spamming. They did announce it? Oh, well, we're waiting for, it's Pope Leo. We're waiting for him to come out then. Is he gay? Based.
Welcome back to the Associated Press live stream on the day that cardinals have chosen the new Pope. The AP has just confirmed that it is the first new updates here live as we wait for the new Pope to show.
La pace sia con tutti voi. Fratelli, sorelle carissimi, questo è il primo saluto del Cristo risorto, il buon pastore che ha dato la vita per il gregge di Dio. Anch'io vorrei che questo saluto di pace entrasse nel vostro cuore, raggiungesse le vostre famiglie, a tutte le persone, ovunque siano, a tutti i popoli, a tutta la terra. La pace sia con voi. Questa è la pace di Cristo risorto, una pace disarmata e una pace disarmante, umile e perseverante. Proviene da Dio, Dio che ci ama tutti incondizionalmente. Ancora conserviamo nei nostri orecchi quella voce debole ma sempre coraggiosa di Papa Francesco che benediva Roma. il Papa che benediva Roma dava la sua benedizione al mondo intero, quella mattina del giorno di Pasqua. Consentitemi di dar seguito a quella stessa benedizione. Dio ci vuole bene, Dio vi ama tutti e il male non prevarrà. Siamo tutti nelle mani di Dio. Pertanto, senza paura, uniti, mano nella mano con Dio e tra di noi, andiamo avanti. Siamo discepoli di Cristo. Cristo ci precede. Il mondo ha bisogno della sua luce. L'umanità necessita di Lui come il ponte per essere raggiunta da Dio e dal suo amore. Aiutateci anche voi, poi gli uni gli altri, a costruire i ponti con il dialogo, con l'incontro, unendoci tutti per essere un solo popolo, sempre in pace. Grazie a Papa Francesco. Voglio ringraziare anche tutti i confratelli cardinali che hanno scelto me per essere successore di Pietro e camminare insieme a voi come Chiesa unita, cercando sempre la pace, la giustizia, cercando sempre lavorare come uomini e donne fedeli a Gesù Cristo, senza paura, per proclamare il Vangelo, per essere missionari. Sono un figlio di Sant'Agostino, agostiniano, che ha detto: con voi sono cristiano e per voi vescovo. In questo senso possiamo tutti camminare insieme verso quella patria la quale Dio ci ha preparato. Alla Chiesa di Roma un saluto speciale. Dobbiamo cercare insieme come essere una Chiesa missionaria, una Chiesa che costruisce i ponti, il dialogo, sempre aperta a ricevere, come questa piazza con le braccia aperte, a tutti coloro che hanno bisogno della nostra carità, la nostra presenza, il dialogo, l'amore. Y se me permiten también una palabra, un saludo a todos aquellos, y en modo particular a mi querida diócesis de Chiclayo en el Perú. Donde un pueblo fiel ha acompañado a su obispo, ha compartido su fe y ha dado tanto para seguir siendo iglesia fiel de Jesucristo. A tutti voi, fratelli e sorelle di Roma, d'Italia, di tutto il mondo, vogliamo essere una Chiesa sinodale, una Chiesa che cammina, una Chiesa che cerca sempre la pace, cerca sempre la carità, cerca sempre di essere vicino specialmente a coloro che soffrono. Oggi, il giorno della supplica alla Madonna di Pompei, Nostra Madre Maria vuole sempre camminare con noi, stare vicino, aiutarci con la sua intercessione e il suo amore. Allora vorrei pregare insieme a voi. Preghiamo insieme per questa nuova missione, però per tutta la Chiesa, per la pace nel mondo, e chiediamo questa grazia speciale di Maria, nostra Madre. Ave Maria, piena di grazia, il Signore è con te. Tu sei benedetta fra le donne e benedetto è il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù. Santa Maria, Madre di Dio, prega per noi peccatori, adesso e nell'ora della nostra morte. Amen. Il Santo Padre Leone, la sua benedizione a mezzo della radio, della televisione e delle altre tecnologie di comunicazione, concede l'indulgenza plenaria nella forma stabilita dalla Chiesa. Preghiamo Dio Onnipotente perché conservi a lungo il Papa a guida della Chiesa e conceda pace e unità alla Chiesa in tutto il mondo. Sancti Apostoli Petrus et Paulus, de quorum potestate et auctoritate confidimus, ipsi intercedat pro nobis ad Dominum. Amen. Precibus et meritis Beate Mariae semper Virginis, Beati Michaelis Arcangeli, Beati Ioannis Baptiste, et Sanctorum Apostolorum Petri et Pauli et omnium Sanctorum. Misereatur vestri omnipotens Deus, et dimissis omnibus peccatis vestris, perducat vos Iesus Christus ad vitam aeternam. Amen. Indulgentiam, absolutionem et remissionem omnium peccatorum vestrorum, spatium vere et fructuose penitentiae, cor semper penitens, et emendationem vitae, gratiam et consolationem Sancti Spiritus, et finalem perseverantiam in bonis operibus tribuat vobis omnipotens et misericors Dominus. Amen. Et benedictio Dei omnipotentis, Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti descendat super vos et maniat semper.
Pope win yet? The new Pope hates maggots.
Come back to the Associated Press live stream on the conclave on the day that Pope Leo.
Is this the guy, Robert Prevost? J.D. Vance is wrong. Jesus doesn't ask us to rank our love for others. Damn. Uh-oh. Denham's claims she will be suing Ethan Klein for defamation. Even set up a GoFundMe. For what? Ethan Klein lied about me supporting CPS coming to his home. If he doesn't retract, this GoFundMe is for legal fees to hold him responsible for his lies. Okay. Okay, good luck.
Look.
Nice. Yes. My right ear loves this audio. I'm not changing it also, by the way.
Listen to what Putin said when he talked about going from Kyiv into Ukraine and why. He believed it's part of Mother Russia. He believes in historical rights to Ukraine.
True.
He talks about Eastern Europe. What this man wants to do is reestablish the Warsaw Pact.
True.
He can't stand
Trump doesn't even know what that is, by the way.
the fact that the Russian dictatorship that he runs, that the Soviet Union has collapsed.
True.
And anybody thinks he's going to stop is just foolish. And look, we have $1 trillion economies with economic exchanges with Europe. I just don't understand how people think that if we allow a dictator, a thug, to decide he's going to take significant portions of land that aren't his, and that's going to satisfy him, I don't quite understand.
So you I want them to work. I want them to be very successful.
President Edward Lawrence from Fox Business. Yes. On the non-market barriers, how did you get the UK to bend, and what was the 11th hour deal or ask?
Well, I think it was really just a part of the overall. I mean, they have so many things that are so good for them. It's going to be so good for the country, and that was sort of easy. It wasn't. We had non-market. I call it non-market or non-monetary trade barriers. And we have quite a few of them, not nearly as bad as some countries. Some countries have, they have virtually no tariff, but the rest of it is so brutal you can't do business with them, right? So it's a very important question, actually. No, I think the overall deal just worked out very well from their standpoint. They were willing to give that in order to get other things, and you might want to speak to that, Mr. Ambassador.
Look, the point about the deal is that we will continue reducing tariffs and non-tariff barriers. This is a continuing.
So it's not a deal. It's just a conversation. Great, nice.
Picture.
We already saw that though.
Picture here. It's a movie. It continues, and we're both committed to freeing up trade between our countries. We're both committed to freeing up investment between our countries. And the point about this deal is that it provides a very good template and a very good launch pad for what we can continue to do and build on in the future. And that's what we're both determined to do.
You know, many of the, well, wait a second. Many of how about just one more little thing, right? Well, got the deal closed, and it was handled very well from the other side, too. But many of these things that we're talking about, we've been talking about this for 25 years. It's hard to explain when, if you weren't sitting behind this beautiful Resolute desk, you just wouldn't get it. I have been hearing about making a deal with UK for 25 years. And especially around the time of Brexit. They wanted to make a deal, so they came out of Brexit and they make a deal, and how natural. And it just couldn't be done. It couldn't be done. Good people. And this is a bigger deal. This is a much bigger, better, stronger deal for both of us than we ever even contemplated before. It's a big deal.
Virtually everyone said that it would end in failure, it would end in tears, and it's ended in exactly the opposite. Yeah. But, Mr. President, can I say that that is due to Secretary Lutnick and Ambassador Greer, who've been absolutely fantastic. But yesterday I received a call, a very diplomatic call, that just edged things over the line, and that was from your new ambassador in the United Kingdom.
Who is terrific.
Warren Stevens, he's here.
Where's Warren?
Right here.
Hello, Warren.
He's flying to London tomorrow night. He's going to be very popular with the British people. He's going to be a very successful ambassador.
Okay, I can't. I'm done with this audio.